Imagine trying to pay your rent or maybe cure a really stubborn migraine by just, sending out good vibes.
Right. I mean, it sounds completely absurd when you put it like that.
It really does. But I mean, if you look at modern wellness culture, it kind of treats the universe like this, like a cosmic ATM
Oh,
almost.
absolutely. Like it just dispenses health and wealth and, perfect relationships if you can just figure out how to tune yourself to the right frequency.
Exactly. I mean, you literally cannot scroll online for more than like 2 minutes without someone telling you to uh, protect your energy or raise your vibration or, avoid a certain coffee shop because it has a low frequency.
Yeah. And the thing is, those specific words, they've been completely hijacked.
Hijacked how?
Well, they've been lifted straight from the realm of hard physics and biology and just dropped right into, self-help seminars and morning routines. So we end up in this incredibly confusing landscape.
Yeah, where people are using literal scientific terminology, right?
Well,
But to describe purely emotional or psychological experience.
exactly. And often, without realizing, they are mixing two completely different frameworks together.
Which is exactly why we are tearing the sci-fi script away from the biology textbook for this deep dive today.
It is much needed, trust me.
Right? So we actually got our hands on this rigorous science-based guide. It was originally developed for a documentary film team, and its entire mission is to draw a hard, undeniable line between well-established physics and these popular philosophical ideas.
And it does a really fantastic job of it, too.
It really does. So for you listening, the goal today is to cut through all this massive information overload. We're going to figure out what energy, frequency, and vibration actually mean under a microscope rather than, on a vision board.
Because the physical reality of how these concepts operate inside our bodies and out in the cosmos is, it's vastly more profound than the mystical interpretations.
Oh, for sure. Trying to understand these terms today feels like trying to untangle a pair of headphones that have been like sitting in your pocket for a year.
Yeah, it's a mess. But we really don't need to invent magical invisible properties for these words to feel a sense of wonder. The grounded science is astonishing, all on its own.
Okay, so let's start untangling. Before we can figure out if our internal vibes are connecting us to the stars, we have to define the basic hardware. Let's look at energy.
That's the perfect place to start.
Because in the everyday wellness space, energy is treated like this invisible glowing aura around your body that you can somehow boost by, I don't know, thinking positive thoughts.
Right, but physics defines it much, much more rigidly than that.
So what is it, actually?
In physics, energy is simply the capacity to do work or to cause change. It's a fundamental property of the universe that exists in highly measurable forms, like thermal, mechanical, electrical, chemical, and electromagnetic.
So no glowing auras.
No, there is no biological life force aura recognized by standard physics. When we talk about human energy, we are talking about something you can literally point to under a microscope.
Right, the guide talks about usable energy in the human body being a very specific molecule, right?
Yes, exactly. It's called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate.
Adenosine triphosphate. Okay, so think of ATP like tiny microscopic rechargeable batteries just floating by the billions inside your cells.
That's a great way to picture it, yeah.
And you don't absorb them from the ether, right? Your body manufactures them. When you eat, say, a piece of toast, your digestive system breaks down those carbohydrates into glucose.
Exactly. And then your cells take that glucose, mix it with the oxygen you breathe in, and through a phenomenally complex mechanical process inside your mitochondria, they charge up those little ATP batteries.
So when you wake up feeling energetic, like you've got a lot of energy, you aren't glowing, you are actually feeling your cellular machinery efficiently producing and hydrolyzing.
It's inbound.
Yeah, breaking down that ATP. Your body is taking the chemical energy stored in that toast and transforming it.
Yes, it becomes mechanical energy when your muscle fibers contract to actually get you out of bed.
Yeah.
And it becomes electrical energy when the neurons in your brain fire so you can, form a thought about making coffee.
Okay, so to keep this straight in my head, if my body's a car, the ATP is the gasoline combusting in the engine. It's the chemical capacity to make the machine go.
Spot on. And that analogy leads naturally to vibration. If ATP is the fuel, vibration is the physical motion of the engine parts.
Okay, so what is a vibration, scientifically speaking?
Scientifically, a vibration is just a physical oscillation. It is a consequence of physical forces acting on mass. So when you speak, the air pushes past your vocal cords, and they physically, mechanically flutter back and forth.
And that flutter is a vibration.
Exactly. That is a measurable vibration.
And this happens on a microscopic level too, doesn't it? Because of our internal body heat, like thermal energy, the atoms and molecules inside of us are constantly jiggling around.
Yes, unless matter is brought down to absolute zero, it is moving. So yes, technically our cells and tissues are vibrating.
But wait, so they are vibrating, but they aren't like sending out a signal.
Right, they are experiencing physical motions of mass, mechanical oscillations. They are not an emotional broadcast signal transmitting your mood into the atmosphere.
Okay, got it. But just knowing that our cells and organs are physically jiggling back and forth doesn't really tell us much on its own, does it?
No, it doesn't. We need a way to measure the speed of that movement to know what the biological system's actually doing. And that measurement metric, that's frequency.
Okay, so if we go back to the car analogy, frequency is the RPM gauge on our dashboard.
Precisely. Frequency just describes the rate of the movement. It's how many repeated cycles happen per second, which we measure in hertz.
And biological systems oscillate constantly, right? Like our heart rhythm has a frequency, our breathing has a frequency.
Exactly. If we hook you up to an EEG machine, we can measure the frequency of your brainwave oscillations. When you are in deep sleep, your brain waves oscillate slowly, maybe 1 to 4 times a second.
And when you're awake.
When you are awake and intensely focused, they oscillate much faster, upwards of 30 or 40 times a second. Frequency is produced anytime a biological system repeats a cycle. It's just the metric.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you here. I'm going to push back a little.
Go ahead.
Because if I'm sitting in a room, right, and someone walks in who is just furious, they just got into a screaming match outside, I can feel that. The room feels heavy. You can cut the tension with a knife.
Right, yeah. We've all been there.
People describe that as feeling someone's bad energy or, picking up on a low frequency. So if we aren't transmitting a measurable magical wave, how does standard biology explain that undeniable physical sensation I get in my chest when an angry person sits next to me?
It's a great question. What you are experiencing there is an incredibly sophisticated evolutionary survival mechanism, not a mystical frequency exchange.
A survival mechanism?
Yeah. Human beings are hypersocial primates. We have specialized neural architecture, including things called mirror neurons, dedicated entirely to reading the physiological states of others.
Oh.
So when that angry person walks in, your brain is instantly processing a massive amount of subtle physical data.
So like their body language.
Body language, sure, but also pupil dilation, the microexpressions on their face, the physical tension in their jaw, the slight increase in their breathing rate, and even chemical signals like stress pheromones in their sweat.
Wait, my brain is picking up on all of that just from them walking in.
In milliseconds.
Yeah.
Your brain processes all of those physical data points and triggers a sympathetic nervous system response in your own body. Your heart rate elevates, your muscles tense up, and your chest feels tight.
So I feel their bad energy because my biology is physically mirroring their physical state to prepare me for a potential threat.
Exactly. You feel it because your body's getting ready to fight or run away.
Okay, that makes so much more sense. We are reading extremely subtle physical cues, not invisible spiritual radio waves.
People often forget that our senses are taking in vastly more information than our conscious mind realizes. When you understand the neurobiology behind empathy and threat detection, you realize you don't need to invent a frequency broadcast to explain why moods are contagious.
That is fascinating. Okay, so humans are highly complex, oscillating biological machines running on ATP, constantly reading the physical cues of our environment.
That's a good summary, yeah.
But then how does this internal biological system connect to the macro system? Like, how do we connect to the universe? Because a lot of modern wellness rhetoric suggests the universe is this giant, benevolent power plant just producing energy for us to tap into if we, align ourselves properly.
Well, we have to look at the first law of thermodynamics here.
Hmm.
Modern physics states unequivocally that the universe does not create energy out of nowhere.
Right. Energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Exactly. It is only transformed from one state to another. Now, the universe does hold an incomprehensible amount of energy, locked up in stars, gravity, background radiation, and matter itself. But it isn't an invisible reserve waiting for us to mentally log in.
We do have a very real, tangible connection to the cosmos, though. I mean, the most obvious one is the sun, right?
Oh, for sure. Our sun is a massive nuclear fusion reactor. It emits electromagnetic radiation, which travels through the vacuum of space, hits the Earth, and literally powers nearly every single ecosystem we have.
And it dictates our internal biology, too. Sunlight doesn't just grow the food we convert into ATP.
No, it's way more direct than that. Photons from the sun physically enter your eyes, strike specialized receptors on your retina, and send an electrical signal directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain.
The suprachiasmatic nucleus, that's the master biological clock, right?
That's the one. That signal suppresses the release of melatonin, waking you up and regulating your circadian rhythm.
Wow.
And we are also subjected to the gravity of the Earth and the Moon, which dictates the tides and holds the atmosphere in place so we can even breathe.
Right.
We are in a continuous, dynamic, purely physical exchange of matter and energy with our environment every single second.
But the biology guide points out something even more awe-inspiring than circadian rhythms, I think. We are quite literally made of stars.
Yes, we are.
Like, the atoms inside our bodies weren't just created out of nothing. The iron pumping through your blood to carry oxygen, the calcium fortifying your bones, those heavy elements were forged inside the incredibly dense, fiery cores of ancient stars that went supernova and exploded billions of years ago.
It's incredible to think about. The mainstream physics data is clear here. There are no additional invisible energy connections required.
Right.
The fact that you share the exact same physical laws as the furthest galaxies, and that you are literally walking, breathing stardust, capable of contemplating its own existence, I mean, that is a profoundly deep, scientifically proven connection.
Okay, so this brings us to a really fascinating psychological leap that people make. We have this very real, very physical connection to the stars. We are made of the same stuff, and we obey the same thermodynamic laws.
Right.
But people take that factual premise and stretch it to mean, if the universe and I are connected, I can consciously tune my internal frequency to the universe to get what I want.
Yes. Manifesting.
Exactly. The whole concept of manifesting. The idea that if I adjust my thoughts to a, frequency of abundance, the universe will physically rearrange itself to give me wealth or love or that big promotion at work.
It is an incredibly seductive idea because, well, it gives us a sense of ultimate control in a very chaotic world.
Totally.
But the scientific guide we are looking at is completely unambiguous on this point. There is zero strong scientific evidence that matching a personal frequency with the universe produces external success or attracts specific outcomes.
So the universe isn't a cosmic catalog where I pay for a new car with a high hertz output.
Unfortunately not. From a physics and biology standpoint, your cellular vibration and the electrical frequency of your brainwaves, they do not directly determine your bank account or your romantic relationships.
Okay, but listen, I have this friend who would vehemently argue with us right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a few years ago, he was stuck in this dead-end job, feeling completely miserable. He started reading about manifesting, decided to adopt a high-frequency, good vibes-only mindset, started visualizing his success every day.
Okay, and what happened?
6 months later, he landed a massive promotion and literally doubled his salary. He completely believes his shifted frequency altered reality to bring him that job. But according to the science we are looking at, what actually happened there?
Well, look, your friend's success is absolutely real, but the mechanism he attributes it to is flawed. It comes down to much more grounded biological and psychological factors.
Like what?
Well, success is driven by things like baseline health, acquired knowledge, deliberate practice, emotional regulation, identifying opportunities, and simple persistence.
Okay, let's break down his timeline then. When he decided to adopt that positive mindset, he probably stopped complaining as much and started sleeping better because he was less stressed.
Exactly. And better sleep means his brain cleared out cellular waste more efficiently, improving his cognitive function.
Right. And when he visualized his success, what was he doing biologically?
He primed a network in his brain called the reticular activating system.
The reticular activating system? I've heard of that. What does it do?
That is a crucial biological mechanism. The reticular activating system acts as a filter for the massive amount of sensory data we encounter daily.
Because we'd be overwhelmed otherwise.
Exactly. So when you deeply focus on a goal, you train that system to prioritize information related to it. The universe didn't magically place a new job opportunity in front of him.
His brain simply stopped filtering out the opportunities that were already there because he was finally looking for them.
Exactly. Plus, by focusing on being positive, he probably improved his emotional regulation.
Yeah, he became a more pleasant person to collaborate with, which naturally drew supportive relationships toward him in the office.
Right. People conflate feeling biologically healthy and psychologically focused with tuning into a magical force.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, Your friend just created the optimal biological conditions for himself to execute deliberate practice and seize an opportunity.
Wow.
And recognizing the actual mechanism doesn't diminish his achievement at all. It gives him the actual credit for doing the hard psychological work, rather than giving the credit to a metaphor.
I love that. That is deeply empowering. You don't have to worry if the universe is angry with you or if your vibes are off. You just have to look at your daily habit.
Exactly.
Which perfectly leads into our next section. If we can't just vibrate higher to magically manifest our goals, how do we actually improve our energy? If you are listening to this right now and thinking, okay, physics is great, but I'm still exhausted and I want more energy, how do we translate all of this into actionable biology?
The rules for increasing healthy energy are, well, they're almost frustratingly basic, but they're entirely rooted in the mechanics of ATP production and cellular health.
So no secret formulas.
No secret formulas. If you want to optimize your body's energy, you have to prioritize adequate sleep, regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and hydration.
We hear those all the time, right? But the why is what makes them matter. We just mentioned sleep clearing out waste.
Yes.
The brain literally shrinks a tiny fraction during deep sleep, so the glymphatic system can wash away metabolic byproducts that build up during the day.
It's amazing. If you don't sleep, that waste stays in your brain and your ATP production gets sluggish. You feel terrible because your cells are quite literally bogged down with trash.
Yikes. Okay, what about hydration?
Hydration is another perfect example. The process of extracting energy from ATP is called hydrolysis, which physically requires water molecules to break the chemical bond.
Wait, physically requires water.
Yes. So if you are chronically dehydrated, your body mathematically cannot produce and utilize energy at an optimal rate. Yeah. You just don't have the materials.
That makes drinking a glass of water feel a lot more important. What about sunlight and stress?
Well, getting daytime sunlight exposure, especially in the morning, optimizes your circadian rhythm. That governs the hormone cycles that dictate when your body should be burning energy versus repairing itself.
And stress.
Managing stress and cultivating meaningful social relationships directly lower cortisol levels. Chronic cortisol exposure degrades your cardiovascular fitness and your metabolic efficiency. And, of course, avoiding smoking and excessive alcohol prevents the literal chemical destruction of your mitochondria.
So if you want high energy, you don't need to buy an expensive crystal or figure out your Hertz output. You just need to drink a glass of water, get 8 hours of sleep, take a walk outside in the actual sunlight, and have a good conversation with a friend.
Right. The literal scientific recipe for energy is just biology maintenance.
Okay. But we do need to address how traditional belief systems fit into this framework, though. Millions of people around the world practice modalities centered on concepts like ki or prana or chakras.
Yes, they do. And the documentary guide provides a very clear framework for how science communicators should handle these topics.
It does. The guide advises that these concepts should be presented with immense respect, but specifically as traditional philosophical, psychological, or spiritual perspectives.
Right. They should not be presented as established physical energy systems like electromagnetism or ATP, unless they become supported by rigorous, peer-reviewed scientific evidence.
Which makes sense. It is entirely about accurate categorization. A person can find immense value, peace, and cultural connection in exploring a concept like ki without needing to pretend it's a measurable physical particle.
Exactly. And practices like Tai Chi or deep chakra meditation often involve breath work, mindfulness, and slow movement.
And we know from the objective biology data that deep rhythmic breathing stimulates the vagus nerve.
Yes, which triggers the parasympathetic nervous system that directly lowers your heart rate, decreases your blood pressure, and reduces stress hormones.
So the physical benefits of the practice are very real and biologically measurable.
Absolutely. The distinction is simply about not confusing the beautiful philosophical framework used to achieve that state with the literal physics of the universe.
Right.
When we keep the science clear, we prevent pseudoscience from exploiting people, and we empower them to make actual effective changes in their physiological lives.
Well said. We've traveled a massive distance today from Instagram wellness influencers down into the microscopic machinery of cellular ATP and out to the thermodynamic laws of exploding supernovas.
It's been quite a trip.
If we pull all these threads together, what is the ultimate takeaway for someone trying to navigate all this information?
I think the main takeaway is that the human body is an unimaginably sophisticated biological system. It operates on a complex, beautifully orchestrated interplay of chemistry, electricity, and mechanics.
No invisible cords.
No, we do not possess mystical energy cords that allow us to manipulate reality with our thoughts. But our deepest, proven connection with the universe is undeniable.
Because it exists through the fundamental laws of nature we share with the cosmos.
Exactly. The environment we dynamically interact with every second, and the ancient stellar atoms that construct our very flesh and bone.
So to you listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Knowing the grounded science doesn't make the world cold or less magical. It arms you against the exhausting tide of pseudoscience and information overload.
Absolutely.
You don't have to spend your time worrying if your frequency is slightly out of tune with the cosmos. You just have to take care of your biology.
Grounding ourselves in the physical reality of how things actually work is simply the most reliable way to navigate the world and improve our lives.
I completely agree. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your day. The sources continually return to the fact that we are made of stardust. Literally, we share the exact same physical laws and the exact same heavy atoms as ancient stars. If our energy is entirely grounded in standard physical like just standard ATP, thermal vibration, and basic chemistry,
Hmm.
yet that very same standard chemistry somehow organized itself in a way that allows us to consciously look up, ask questions, and contemplate the very universe we originated from. Doesn't that scientifically proven biological truth make us far more miraculous than any made-up mystical claim ever could?